Wicked has been really important to me for as long as I can remember. When I first discovered the story, I was probably about 10 years old, and I remember at that age feeling kind of different to everybody around me because what I did not know yet at that age was that I was a very gay and autistic child. But looking back, you could definitely spot that from like 1,000 miles away. The reason that I say this is because Elphaba's story has helped me a lot throughout my life. It was really inspiring to me that she was like so different to everyone around her and so deeply insecure, yet she still managed to find her people and her purpose and fight for what she believed in. As much as I relate to Elphaba in that aspect, there's a lot of Glinda in me. The fear of truly being yourself and leaving your comfort zone, being careful not to anger the oppressors before coming to realize that you need to fight against it. I think that's the most amazing thing about Wicked, that both Elphaba and Glinda are relatable to us all for different reasons. But why is it important? If you're asking that, literally where have you been? But okay, let's just jump straight into it. This video contains spoilers for both Wicked and Wicked for Good. We will not be discussing the book in this video. For those who recently got into Wicked through the films, just know that the book is very, very different and very weird at times. Don't be fooled by the movie artwork being on the cover now. Wicked follows the story of Elphaba Frop. Elphaba is misunderstood and relentlessly bullied for the colour of her skin from her peers, society, and even her own father, who is openly disgusted and disappointed in her for, her green skin, and also because he blames her for Nessarose's condition, but that is entirely his fault. He sucks so bad. Anyway, obviously, this immediately tackles themes of, racism and prejudice, which a lot of people need to be educated on today. And Elphaba continues to be alienated by everybody in her life until she befriends Glinda, the popular girl who conforms, fits in, follows the trends, and, all that. But Glinda is secretly very insecure too, and envious of Elphaba for her bravery and ability to be herself, but she doesn't realize that until it's too late. Elphaba and Glinda eventually will learn the truth about the wizard and what his true goals are. Glinda chooses to conform, while Elphaba decides that she has to try and fight against his oppression, to which Elphaba is villainized and Glinda is named Glinda the Good. Okay, but seriously, why is Wicked so important, especially today? Well, to answer that, we do have to look at the wizard, unfortunately. The wizard represents the type of politician that we know all too well today. The type who thrives on misinformation, hatred, fear-mongering to gain supporters. As we know, if you've seen Wicked that is, Elphaba's main motivation for doing what she does is the animals. All she wants is to help them. She discovers that the animals are being persecuted through Dr. Dillamond, and she makes it her mission to find the wizard and get his help to save them. But when she finds him and discovers that he is a fraud, she also finds out that he decided he needed to give Oz a good enemy so that they don't discover that he's a fake, and the enemy he chose is the animals. This causes the defying gravity moment and Elphaba's decision to tell Oz the truth about the wizard, so he deems her an enemy of Oz too. The wizard is really reminding me of a real person right now, but I can't quite put my finger on who it is, because it's a couple people. I wonder who. I think it's a good time now that we talk about Glinda. As much as we don't want to admit it, I think Glinda represents most of us. Glinda grew up privileged and rich, which doesn't represent most of us. I know, I'm getting to the point, I swear. Glinda is just another bully when she meets Elphaba. I know that doesn't represent everyone either. Okay, please just let me make my point. When we first meet her, Glinda wants to fit in and she wants to be loved by everyone, which she is. And she joins in with the mockery of Elphaba for a while, but eventually she becomes really close with her, as we know. But when Elphaba has her defying gravity moment, Glinda stays behind. She joins with the wizard and Madame Morrible, Wicked Witch,
Madame Morrible, flip it around, Wicked Witch,
and gets everything she's ever wanted. All she has to do in return is keep quiet, so she does that. I think the reason that Glinda represents most people is because she means well, but she's afraid to cause a scene. She doesn't have the bravery Elphaba has, and when all of Glinda's dreams come true thanks to the wizard, she's happy to keep quiet about the truth, but also she doesn't really understand the extent of the evil that the wizard possesses. Hence why, during the song Wonderful, which in the movie version Galinda is part of, she wasn't in the stage show. So I think that's like the best decision they ever could have made. Like, including Galinda in Wonderful was a great idea. It shows how manipulated she really is. But during the song, she and the wizard convince elphaba to like come back, join the wizard because he promises that he's going to save the animals, which obviously is a big fat lie. And elphaba finds that one out pretty quickly. But Glinda continues living the lie, having a very emotional response to elphaba and fiyero running off together, which, relatable. Until she comes around when she watches him get dragged away and sings for good with elphaba, maybe the best song ever. And in the film, she has her girl in the bubble moment, which I've seen a lot of people like hating on that song, but when I was watching the film, I kind of really liked it. But I did see someone say that it should have been more of like a reprise of like popular, but like sad, and I feel like that would have been a lot better. Maybe that's just me and that person on Reddit, but I think that would have been a great idea. Anyway, but I think this is kind of what makes Galinda so relatable. She knows right from wrong. She knows she should speak out, but she's emotional. She isn't perfect. She's afraid, but she learns. She comes around and she changes, and she does everything Elphaba couldn't do. She helps the animals, she exiles the wizard. She was stronger than she thought, she just needed a little push. And I think the same can be said for all of us. But I do just want to say, now that we're here, please do use your voice. Talk about Palestine, speak out against injustice, stand up for what you believe in. You will make a difference. Somebody is listening, I promise. So yeah, now we've talked about elphaba and Galinda, but what about nessarose? I don't really see a lot of people talking about her. I mean, like, I do, but not, like, in depth, so we're gonna try do that now. Nessarose is Elphaba's sister. She is their father's favourite sibling, and everybody else is at the beginning too. Nessa is a wheelchair user, and because of that, everyone around her kind of just assumes her to be weak and disadvantaged. And for this reason, she kind of grows up without autonomy due to her overprotective. I could use a lot of words to describe him, but I'm not going to. So we're just gonna say overprotective father. The only one who stands up for her is Elphaba. Bok and Nessa eventually get together because Galinda fakes sympathy for Nessa just to like get him away from her. He's like, Galinda, I love you. She's like, yeah, but look at her over there. Don't you feel bad for her? Go ask her out instead. And so Bok does that. Nessa believes it is actually because Bok feels bad for her, which makes her upset, but then he's like, oh no, I love you. So yeah, basically he just like lies about Galinda's lie. Obviously he can't tell her that he's only with her for Galinda. So, he's just awful. He is literally so heartless even before he becomes the Tin Man. I hate Bok. This is a Bok hate page. Spread as much hate for Bok as you want, as you need. I hate him. He deserved his fate, and I hope that Galinda decided to exile him too because he sucks. Anyway, the ableism and prejudice Nessa faced in her life took her down a very different path than her sister. Nessa became very insecure and very cynical, which led to her very questionable actions as governor and mistreatment of Bok. Again, this is not a defense of Bok. Nessa does some very bad things, but Bok is literally awful too. Nessa forces Bok to stay with her and serve her like at all times due to her insecurities. She likely believes that this is the only way that she can keep Bok around, even though deep down like she knows Bok doesn't love her. And then when he finally admits that he's only with her to impress Galinda, Nessa is heartbroken, and it causes her to essentially not allow Munchkins to ever leave Munchkin Land, just so she can keep Bok from escaping. Her horrible leadership after this earns her the title the Wicked Witch of the East. Also worth mentioning that she shrunk his heart. She did that on purpose, but she shrunk it to the point he nearly died, and Elphaba just had to like get rid of it completely, which I would say deserved because Bok is awful, but maybe we shouldn't. No, it is deserved. Yeah. Okay, and since we've talked about like the little changes that the film made, I mean we've talked about it once, but we're gonna do it again. In the stage show, when Elphaba does her spell to help Nessa just before she shrinks Bok's heart, she basically cures Nessa's condition, and Nessa is just able to walk again. I don't think I need to say this, but that is really awful representation. Like, that is terrible, bottom of the barrel. Like, what are you doing? That's not representation. Obviously, disabled people don't need to be cured to be worthy of basic respect. Nessa as a character is great. Representation in popular media for disabled people is unfortunately very unheard of, I think. It's rare that you find like a major character who is a wheelchair user, and Wicked is great at showing how harmful the assumption that disabled people can't live their lives without assistance is. Nessa is portrayed as strong and capable of independence, yet also very insecure due to the assumptions that she's incapable. So the movie's portrayal of nessarose is 1,000 times better because when elphaba like does her spell to enchant the shoes in the film version, Nessa just starts levitating and she's super hyped about that. So that is like loads better than her just getting up and walking, obviously. Nessa is a perfect example of how oppression can create more oppressors though. Unlike Galinda and elphaba who try to enact change, Nessa goes down a very dark path, as we see. So now that we've discussed the oppressed, let's talk about the oppressors. Starting with Madame Morrible, Wicked Witch. I don't have two free hands or I'd do the thing. We can just do, you know what I mean.
Actually, I think for Madame Morrible, it just went from MM to WW, Wicked Witch.
Madame Morrible is a master manipulator. Think like alt-right podcaster. She encouraged elphaba from the day they first met, helped her learn how to use her powers, and helped her finally meet the wizard. Elphaba looked up to Madame Morrible. She gave elphaba the attention and the approval that she always desired from her father. She viewed Madame Morrible as a mentor, someone she could trust, maybe like even a matriarchal figure in her life, because obviously her mum is no longer alive. So the betrayal from Morrible is quite possibly the worst like ever in the entire Wicked series, whatever. Like it's just awful. So yeah, elphaba really admired Madame Morrible until she finds out that she was playing a huge part in helping the wizard suppress the animals, and her plan all along was to manipulate elphaba into using her powers to assist her and the wizard. You know, as we see when they trick elphaba into giving Chistery wings so that the monkeys can become spies. You know. And then, obviously, when elphaba realizes all this, she decides to expose the truth. Madame Morrible then has zero problems with demonizing her and deeming her a wicked witch, which, you know, as we know, is what Madame Morrible is.
MM, flip it around, Wicked Witch.
Similarly, she groomed Galinda very much so. I saw a Twitter thread about how like Galinda was groomed, and then there were people going like, no, she wasn't. And it's like, I'm sorry, did you pay attention? At the end of the first movie, it's shown very well when we see her like hugging Galinda after defying gravity. And after that moment, when her and the wizard decide to use Galinda by making all her dreams come true, they kind of groom her into believing they're not really that bad, and that Galinda is better off sticking with them. This is very clear during Thank Goodness when Galinda has her little chat with Fiyero about elphaba, and he tells her that he believes that the reason she won't speak out is because she's afraid of losing her status and her popularity and, you know, everything she's ever wanted in her life. But Galinda is adamant that she is a public figure now, and she just has to boost morale, insisting that it isn't for selfish reasons that she won't tell the truth about elphaba. She just has to tell everybody that she's engaged because it will make them happy. She just has to do that. And I believe deep down she is just afraid, as Fiyero says, but also she truly does believe that what she's doing is because of the manipulation and the grooming from Madame Morrible and the wizard. She just can't admit that to herself at the moment. Well, at that point, you know. And I think that it's especially clear during Wonderful in the movie. Galinda takes the wizard at his word and he says he will help the animals if elphaba comes back, which I think kind of says a lot about the extent of the manipulation that she went through. Like, yeah, she's excited to have her best friend back, but also she seems to truly, genuinely believe that the wizard still has good intentions. But when Fiyero is dragged away by the guards just after Nessa's death, I think that's when the true feelings Galinda had suppressed about Morrible and the wizard kind of start to come out, but not fully. She fully changes her tune when elphaba has to fake her death, and she thinks it's real. TLDR, Madame Morrible and the wizard are manipulators. They exploit people's weaknesses until they feel they have no choice but to conform, like alt-right podcasters. I think if we're talking about grooming and manipulation, we also need to talk about control and propaganda. The wizard loves propaganda. It's his favorite thing. If you paid attention to the environment when watching the films, you likely noticed like the banners, the posters, the newspapers, anything that could have a gross, distorted looking image of elphaba printed onto it had a gross, distorted looking image of elphaba printed onto it. He's always just like, Hey Grok, generate a picture of an evil green witch. Reminds you of someone, doesn't it? I don't think I need to tell you how effective a simple poster is at radicalizing vulnerable people, and as we know, the wizard knows that all too well, so of course he exploited everyone's fears. Not only that, but the language used to describe elphaba had a major impact on him keeping his control over the narrative. Morrible describes elphaba as a wicked witch and as a repulsion, a public enemy. She calls her green skin an outward manifestorium of her twisted nature. And of course, if your trusted leaders are feeding you these lies about a girl you've never met, or a girl you already held negative views about due to her green skin, or a girl you've only ever heard bad things about, you're going to believe those lies. And spreading these lies is exactly what makes elphaba lose control over her own story. The rumors that she has a third eye, that she can be melted by pure water, that she is persecuting the animals despite her one goal being to help them. It gets to a point where it's difficult for the average munchkin to tell the fact from fiction. Elphaba no longer gets to control her narrative because she dared to speak up. And this is a very real experience. Elphaba says it herself to Glinda. She essentially tells her, don't try to clear my name, they won't believe you anyway. Let them see me as the villain. But I guess you could see this as her taking back control of the narrative. She has decided that she wants them to believe she's wicked. But it was all caused by the wizard and Madame Morrible. They robbed her of her autonomy in a way. Ultimately, though, Elphaba survives and she gets to be with Fiyero and the animals are all safe in Galinda's hands, but it comes with a cost. Elphaba essentially exiles herself. She will never be able to see her best friend again, and she will never be able to live in a world where humans and animals can live in harmony together like she always wanted to. But she can finally be free with Fiyero, and she knows Galinda will do all the good she can, and she does. Glinda exiles the wizard and imprisons Madame Morrible after setting the animals free. Glinda achieves everything Elphaba wanted to and restores peace and happiness to Oz, but she loses her best friend for good. Wicked does an amazing job at showing how people are nuanced. We are all flawed, we all have the ability to be good and bad, and the path we choose makes all the difference. And Fiyero shows that your chosen path can change. When we first meet him, he is shallow, brainless, careless, but he met Elphaba and fell for her. When we see him free the lion cub with her, and in part 2 he is part of the wizard's guards just so he can find and help Elphaba. Because he loves her and he believes in her cause. This belief in and love for her got him turned into a scarecrow, but he still believed in her and she still believed in him, showing how far he'd come from the first time we met him, and showing that people are capable of change. He is still brainless, but at least he's a better person, right? I think Galinda shows that too, but she has a lot more going on, you know? Ultimately, I think Wicked will always be relevant. For me, as a queer kid growing up confused about myself, it helped me become more accepting of me. I mean, we can't deny that Elphaba and Galinda's relationship is very queer coded at times. And I just think, in general, a story about the friendship of two women who managed to break the system and change life for everybody for the better, or for good, am I right? It's just amazing. There's so much that can be said about the feminist aspect of Wicked because it is a feminist piece of media if it just is. So maybe I'll do a separate video on that one, along with the queerness, because both are necessary and you can't deny that. Wicked teaches us how to recognize propaganda and manipulation, and highlights the importance of thinking for ourselves and making our own informed decisions, and not believing everything we hear or read. It teaches us about the importance of using our voices and speaking out against injustice. It shows us through Elphaba that even just one voice can make a difference. And just as importantly, it teaches us to find our people. It shows us how even just one person can change our whole lives. And for all those reasons, Wicked will always be an important story. So with that said, thanks for watching and listening to me ramble. If you enjoyed this, then please subscribe to me and like the video because I would really appreciate that. After all, this video has changed you for good.